Well, hello there. It is good to see you again, and welcome back to Go Beyond Numbers. I'm your host and moderator, Ryan Ruff, and boy, is it great to be back with you here for the season premiere as we, turn the chapter into season 2 of the show. It's great to have you guys back with us, and as always, we'll be joined by Mr. Tony Rose of Rose Snyder and Jacobs. He'll be joining me, and we've got another special guest that we're bringing for you here on the show today. We always bring guests from Tony's personal and professional lives. We love to get a window into their world and a lot of the practices and principles that they live by. And boy, do we have a good guest for you today. Today, joining us is Mr. Mark Wayman, the Godfather of Las Vegas. You heard that right. Great ring to that nickname. Truly, Mark is an executive recruiting mastermind, really, for casinos and gaming and really high tech as a whole. So Tony's going to be diving into a great conversation with Mark today, just about his world, how he became the Godfather of Las Vegas, and what that really means in terms of his professional relationships and how he goes about that on a day-to-day basis. So, but first and foremost, let's go ahead and get Tony out here and get right into it. Tony, it's good to see you this morning. How are you doing, sir?
Nice to see all of you today, and I'm very happy that we're starting our second season. Ryan, I think the first season was a lot of fun. We learned a lot of stuff, and I think we're going to learn even more stuff this coming series of podcasts.
I would agree. We've gone pretty far beyond the numbers there on the first season, Tony, and Mark's going to kick things off with a great episode here to kick things, get things rolling. But Tony, I'll throw things over to you. I know you've got a great relationship with Mark, and I'm excited to see how today's conversation pans out.
Yes. Full disclosure, I consider Mark one of my great friends, and but it didn't start out that way, because that way I was introduced to Mark by my marketing director many, many years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to one of his events and got to see Mark in action. Mark is a very unusual man. He's actually had 2 lives, and I want to discuss that with Mark today. So let's bring Mark in right now. Mark, good morning to you.
Hey, Tony, greetings from Las Vegas. It's good to be seen.
It's nice to be able to connect with you, and full disclosure, every once in a while we get together and have a cigar, don't we?
That is correct. Although I've scaled back on the cigars a little bit, but once in a while.
Once in a while, and I'm honored to be able to do that once in a while with you. Mark is very interesting because he has an ethos about hiring employees, relationships between companies and their team, and also has a bird's eye view into the gaming and technology industry. So I wanted to start off today, Mark, by just asking you a question. Talk to us about the 2 lives that you've had and how you morphed from one life into another.
Sure. So I started out, actually 3 lives, because I was a professional bowler when I was 18. And pretty quickly I figured out, when I went on the National Pro Bowling Tour, that there was about 200 guys better than me. So life 1 was over at like 18. And then I was a technology executive for about 20 years or so, CIO. And then just through sheer happenstance, ended up with 2 software companies. So one of them went public on the NASDAQ, and that was pretty cool. But the second one was really interesting. We did counterterrorism for the government. We were funded by the CIA in QTEL, and we did a lot of work for Department of Defense, FBI, CIA, Al-Qaeda, counterterrorism type stuff. That company was acquired by IBM for a number with many zeros on the end. And then I retired. So I was 45 years old. I bought a racehorse. The only thing I ever wanted to buy my whole life is a luxury item, right? Was a racehorse. And a friend of mine called and said, I need some FBI talent. I said, what for? And he said, for anti-money laundering. I said, well, that's actually Secret Service guys. That's not FBI. But I said, we can do that. And he said, look, here's the deal. You're on the board of Make-A-Wish. I give you $50,000. And if you don't want the money, you give it away to charity, you can give it away to Make-A-Wish. And that's how I got started with my executive recruiting business 18 years ago. And then over the years, I built that client base up. And I think that at this point in my career, most folks would tell you that I am the biggest gaming and casino recruiter on the planet.
Yes, you know what? I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. One interesting thing about your approach, in at least from my observation, is that you're very relationship based. You do not throw mud against the wall, do you?
Mhm.
So talk about the importance of relationships in your business, and then maybe we can extend it out to some wisdom for some of the listeners about the what I call relationship as a currency.
Yeah, so I'm not a sales guy. I'm a technology person. I'm not a salesperson. So when I started off having to do sales, I started hosting these events. And the foundation room at Mandalay Bay here was the first ones. And I got together 6 clients and I said, tell you what, I'll bring you some Cuban cigars and I'll pay for your bar bill. And our only purpose will be for you 6 guys to meet each other, right? There's a lot of value in those relationships. And then I started them in San Francisco and I did them in Hollywood, which is where I met you. And we were out, I think, smoking a cigar on the balcony of the House of Blues, West Hollywood. And you looked at me and you said, Mark, how can I help you? And it just struck me that that was like the most important question that you can ask someone, right? How can I help you? Because most of the people who are in sales, all they care about is making their quota. You know, my quota is $1 million this month. What part you gonna help me with, right? And after a while, everybody gets tired of being solicited, right? And so I took that to heart and tried to help people, you know, in a variety of different ways. And the events got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now there are about 125 people. I stopped doing LA and San Francisco, but I still do them in Las Vegas. The next one, you're actually a sponsor. It's doubling as a charity event for Noah's Animal House, which is the pet portion of the Shade Tree Women's Shelter. And we're going to be doing that December 7th in the penthouse at Red Rock. And we have 20 sponsors, and we will be raising a significant amount of money for Noah's.
Yes, and I'm happy to be able to participate in that, and it's always a blessing to be able to do it. There's a very interesting book that was published last week by my friend Joe Polish called "What's in It for Them," and I want you to first buy my book, Go Beyond Numbers. That book would be a great second for everyone to get. And in it, he talks about the power of relationship. And he talks about that concept of saying, how can I help you? The whole idea is to bring more to the table than you're asking from the people
Right.
that you have a relationship with. You pack a big power in your search, don't you? In terms of what you give to your clients. What's your philosophy with that?
Well, you know, if you want people to take your phone call, you need to explain what your unique value proposition is. So I started a newsletter 18 years ago that has who got hired, who got fired, what's going on in gaming in casinos. And I have 7,000 people on that newsletter list, right? It's just for my clients. It's not open to the public. Please don't ask me to subscribe. It's just a benefit of knowing me, right? So that there's some unique value prop. Nobody puts anything like that together. And our industry, the gaming and casino industry, is very small. Everybody knows everybody. And so people are interested to see where their friends went, where they're working, what's the latest news, right? So beyond that, of course, you know, knowing an executive recruiter can come in handy. You know, in 2008, when we hit Depression 2.0 and everybody was out of a job, well, my friends were in a good spot because I helped them out and I made sure they were gainfully employed. And that's about to happen again. We're about to go into a very deep recession, and the media can portray that however they want. In my opinion, this is going to be bad. I have seen hiring fall off by 75% in the last 30 days. Of course, now keep in mind, I work at $100,000 and up. My average placement is 250, 300,000. So I'm at the high end. I'm not talking about bottle washers and servers and that. I'm talking about the high end stuff, right? And so my newsletter, the executive recruiting, I hate to say, I've helped a lot of people's kids get their first job out of college. Mom wants to work part time. When you're a client of mine, I try to add value in many ways.
How is it that the clients that you have add value to you? How do they help you? Is it mutual?
I would say it's interesting. That's a really good question because half the people, they don't even say thank you. It was like it was an honor and a privilege for me to help them. And I get paid. I get it, right? The other half want to name the next two kids after me, right? So I think that you see a dichotomy there of people that are very self-absorbed, right? And very self-focused versus people that understand how relationships work and how the universe works, right? And so, look, I get paid, so I love everybody, but I think it goes to character when the people that I get, $1 million jobs aren't grateful for it.
What? So how do you know? It's the world loves a giver,
Mm-hmm.
and so it is, I think, important to give you, and I agree about that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my questions is, how can you discern if you're being used and made? I won't say abused because no one gets abused unless they permit it. But how do you know when that relationship is not mutual?
Yeah, a great question. Well, every day I get asked for free tickets and free rooms every day. And I've got a canned response. Look, my clients make money by selling tickets and rooms, right? I don't ask them for free tickets and rooms. They don't ask me to recruit for free, right? So, there is a percentage of the demographic that feels entitled because of how much money they make or where they live or what their title is or who they are. I don't care. You know what? I have relationships with 5% of my Rolodex that are very close, maybe another 15, 20% that I consider friends, and then 75%, really they're just acquaintances, right? And there's X amount of favors to go around. And so I have to save those, like the $1 million jobs. I'm not going to work with people I don't. Why would I do that? My clients expect me to know everything about the candidate, know their backstory, quote it scripture and verse. So, I'm very focused on the relationship part of it and helping my friends.
So when are people looking for jobs now, or are people just standing pat?
Oh, it's horrible. There's nobody wants to work. It's horrible. They added 269,000 jobs last month and they ran through the streets screaming job growth. That's not job growth. Those are people that went back to work that have been unemployed, collecting unemployment, but because it's $7 for a gallon of gas and food's up 25%, they had to go back to work. It's not job growth. 4.1 million people quit last month. 4.1 million. How are they getting by? I have no idea. The number of open jobs went up again from 10.3 to 10.7 million. Yet you only have 5 million people collecting unemployment. So I've never seen it like this. The whole world just changed when this pandemic hit. It's crazy.
I would think, I it's really amazing to me because it is very hard to find people. We have a full-time recruiter now that recruits in professional that's our employee. So she's constantly on the lookout for people looking for jobs. It's very hard to find. I will say, thank God, we've been able to hire 3 or 4 people in the last month, which is great. If people are looking for jobs or looking for new opportunities, what advice might you have for those kinds of people looking for opportunities? How should they position themselves? What do you think? If it's true, we're going to be going from a seller's market, the employees, to a buyer's market, the employers. And I just heard Meta is going to have some kind of huge layoff. I saw announced yesterday, which is Facebook, and what are the do's and don'ts for employees at this point?
Yeah, well, you can't have historic government debt and historic consumer debt and 9% inflation and not understand what's about to happen and how that's going to unwind. And it hasn't really started. People think, oh, we're in the recession. We're not in the recession yet. The pain is coming, and it's going to be very deep, and it's going to be very long. And everybody that's buying stocks today that thinks the Fed's going to pivot and they're going to stop raising rates, you've lost your mind. You don't understand how economics works, right? From a candidate perspective, the number one mistake I see is that people are unreasonable about compensation. So I have a saying, anybody that tells you money doesn't matter doesn't have any, okay? So I understand that money matters, but people are coming to me making $70,000 and asking me for $160,000. That's not a reasonable request. Even if I wanted to do it, the human resources people at the hiring companies are going to laugh at me. So you have to be reasonable. 10, 20% increase in pay, I get it. But for me, I really think that if you're going to change jobs, you need to look at your 5 and 10-year plan, right? And see, how does this move me forward? Look for the opportunity. Don't just always be obsessed with money. It's not attractive in a client. The next thing is, if you can't relocate, then you need to work your professional network and find a recruiter in this. Let's say you're in Los Angeles, find a recruiter in Los Angeles. At least half of my jobs, maybe more, you got to relocate. Again, these are $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 jobs, but you have to follow your career and you will have to relocate.
Do you have a 5 and 10-year plan?
So every day when I wake up, I wonder if today's my last day, Tony. A friend of mine ran up to me. We were going to Starbucks for coffee, and he ran up to me and he put his arm around me and he said, "Mark, what's changed for you as a executive recruiter since the pandemic started?" And I looked over and I said, "I have kind of lost my faith in humanity. The behavior of not the hiring companies, but the candidates, people lie. They're not honest with you. They spend 2 months interviewing, then they take a counter offer and think that's okay. They're interviewing with 4 companies, but they lie and don't tell you that. I don't care if you're interviewing with 10 companies, but at least let me know so I can let my client know, just the candidate behavior is just the last 2 years is dreadful. It's absolutely dreadful.
So as an employer, what should we be looking for in the candidate? Is it that phenomenon where the candidate is concerned but not overly concerned about compensation, be looking to see what the future is? As an employer, what should we be looking for in the great characteristics of a great employee?
Well, I think it's the same thing that it has been for the last 50 years, right? Education is very helpful. Don't send the hate mail. I have an MBA from Texas A&M, but the truth is, as a recruiter, I don't care if you have a degree or not. But if my client says must have 4-year degree, guess what? I like getting paid, and I'm only sending people with a 4-year degree. Um, Stable work history is good, 3 to 5 years. If someone's had 4 jobs in the last 4 years, that's a pattern, right? Also, highly recognizable employers. So, in my industry, if somebody's been at MGM or Caesars or Station Casinos, as opposed, you know, to Joe Paducah's gas station casino, high profile employers are good as well. But 50% of it's talent. Do they fit the job spec, right? But the other 50% is chemistry. So when you interview them, do you like them? Do you feel like they're going to be a good fit? Because, the high strung Caesars person probably is not a great fit for the laid back Boyd gaming. You have to look at the culture and match the person to the culture.
I like that. I'm writing that down. Match culture to person.
Yeah.
Do you think employers are, now your employers are big employers? Are they really aware of what their culture is?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, they're pretty smart. It's funny when SRD, the counterterrorism software company I was with, got bought by IBM, and I thought that was going to be the greatest job of my life. I mean, IBM 390,000 employees is phenomenal. I lasted 8 months. I hated it. Why? Because I'm type A. I'm results oriented. I go, right? And IBM, it's a great company. If you want to hang for 20, 30 years, get the gold watch and do that thing, right? There's not, at least for me, there wasn't a high expectation, but I didn't like that, you know? So yes, I do believe that the human resources people typically have a pretty good handle on what their culture is like. Now, you have very good cultures and you have very toxic cultures, right? And so that's one of the values I bring for the candidates is I know the places that are a good place to work, right? There's a lot of very bad places to work in Las Vegas, and most of them are the ones out doing the post and pray, posting online all the time. They don't pay. They treat people poorly. They have high turnover, and so on the candidate side, I steer my candidates away from those employers.
Let's something you just said prompted me to want to kind of turn the direction of the conversation into the concept of work-life balance, which is maybe an overused phrase, but my observation of you, especially since you got married, and I knew you before you got married to your wife, Anne, you're really good about balancing how busy you are and your personal life. It feels to me like, maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Oh, I think that in casinos we call it the life because so many of the casino executives are very one-dimensional, right? They just work 100 hours a week, day, nights, weekends, right? And I was that way until we sold SRD to IBM, and I retired. I said, I'm done. I've got enough to live on the rest of my life. I'm 45. I'm going to go buy this racehorse. This is going to be fun. And then I read a book called Halftime by a guy named Bob Buford. And he said, that's great. You made all this money and you got houses and cars and stuff. But he said, what about your legacy? What's your purpose in life? Why are you here? Right? Started, how will you be remembered? And that really, it shook me. And I said, I think I've been a taker for 45 years. It's probably time that I start giving back. And that was when I really started getting into Make-A-Wish and Opportunity Village and Catholic Charities and Noah's Animal House and Olive Crest, and got very involved with all the charities, from sitting on the board to last month I hosted the fundraiser for Olive Crest, the foster children. And as you know, next month I'm hosting the Noah's Animal House one. And so it just changed my whole perspective. And when I met Annie 12 years ago, she loved to travel and have fun and go out. And so we started traveling quite a bit. I'd never been anywhere, and we started going on cruises. We've been to Africa on safari. We've been to Antarctica. And I'm blessed to be, at 60, able to spend more time enjoying life and not having to work as hard. This job, this executive recruiting was supposed to be 20 hours a week. Just give me something to do. But 2008 hit and it became 60 hours a week because all my friends were unemployed. And now I'm morphing back into that 20-hour a week.
And do you find that you have more energy now because you're getting more mind rest?
Mm-hmm. Well, at the age of 50, I inherited parenting duties from my stepdaughter Amelia, who is a real handful. She's a lovely girl, but a real handful. And so I got to do that through her high school years. And then we've got the two mini Labradoodles, Alfie and Rocky, and they're like having two grandbabies. If they don't get their 2 walks every day, nobody's sleeping tonight. So I walk 3 or 4 miles a day, every day. And then Anne was actually the Nevada State Triathlon champion in her former life. And so we do a couple days of high intensity weightlifting. I ride a stationary bike. So we try to stay in good shape.
That's good. That's good. I have a turning back to what you do and the clients that you have. Tell me about there's a recent, it's relatively recent, that the Indian tribes are actually getting into Las Vegas. And I think it might be interesting what you observe. I know that which is the casino that was taken over by one of the tribes recently.
Well, you have two of them. You have two. The first one was the Palms, that was acquired by San Manuel Yamava. And then the second was the Mirage, which was that was acquired by Hard Rock International, which is Seminoles.
And is that going to be changing gaming, or is it just another large organization getting into the gaming industry in Las Vegas and the hospitality industry in Las Vegas? Because they're doing both, right?
Yeah, look, they're both sensational operators. I do believe the San Manuel is #1 by revenue and profitability in the United States. Hard Rock International, they have a monopoly in Florida, but they've been very successful. Atlantic City, Indiana, they've got, they've done, they have expanded into several jurisdictions and been successful with each one, right? I actually was asked by the COO at San Manuel for 3 casinos that I thought would be a good acquisition. And my #1 pick was Palms. And then the CEO, Lawrence Fosso, came back, asked me the same question, and they ended up buying the Palms. It was a beautiful product. And the reason I liked it so much was because the Fertittas had put $700 million into it. So you could buy this, and it was turnkey. Just turn the lights on and you go, right? But Las Vegas is not Los Angeles, and it's not Florida, right? So there are some challenges. Look at Penn Gaming. So Penn Gaming bought Tropicana and M Resort, and it's been okay, right? It's not, they're a regional operator. This isn't a regional place. This is Las Vegas. So, I think the best operators in town are Station Casinos. I think Stations and Boyd Gaming are going to be fine through this downturn. Even Golden Entertainment. I think the strip's going to be tough. I think the strip's going to be really, really tough.
And those are the big operators like Caesars and MGM
And they're smart guys. I mean, they're smart guys. It's hard. You got the Cosmopolitan got bought by MGM. The Venetian got bought by private equity guys that had Caesars. But when they've got the Macau stuff, which is going to make it hard. Fountain Blue's coming online. Cliff Atkinson's, he's in the fortunate position he's not going to open till late next year, so he probably gets to sit out what is going to be a pretty messy situation for the next 12 months.
Which casino is that, Mark?
What's that?
Which operation is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Fountain Blue Las Vegas.
Oh, the Fountain Blue.
Should we call it Fountain Blue Part 2? Because I did a bunch of work on the first one, which was Jeffrey Sofer and Glenn Schaefer. And this time around, it's Jeffrey Sofer and the Koch brothers. It's going to be an amazing project, a real palace. But so is Resorts World. It's a beautiful product. It's a tough part of the strip. And the bottom part of that customer demographic, the free money people, are gone. And now, again, people are going for dinner or staying in the hotel, but they're not gambling the way they used to. And when the stock market goes down and house prices go down, people feel poor. And so they don't take vacations and they don't come to Las Vegas.
Yes, that's good. Tell me, is there any question I should be asking you about what you did that I haven't asked?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next 12 months, I don't want to sound like Chicken Little, but a lot's going to depend on what happens tomorrow. A lot. And, I'm very concerned that if we continue down our current path, I don't want to get political, but I'm reading a book called Game Over, and it's about Greece and what happened in Greece. And it's exactly where we're at. And if we continue down this path of socialism, a lot of very wealthy people are going to leave. You can go down to Panama on Act 60. I don't have to pay US taxes anymore. I can just bolt. I only got to be there 6 months and a day out of every year. And several thousand New Yorkers have already done it. Tens of thousands of New Yorkers have left and gone to Florida because it's a no tax state. You can't ask 1% of the people to hold up the other 99%. It's not sustainable. So, I'm hoping we work our way through this recession and it doesn't become a depression. And I'm hoping no matter what happens tomorrow, that everybody remembers at the end of the day, we're all Americans.
Yeah, you know what? I hope so too. No matter what your political stripe is, I think it's just so important that if we don't come together, we at least live together. That's the important thing. I am looking forward, Mark, to seeing you on December 7th for your charity event, which is always a great time. We didn't talk about this, but he helps entertainers that do covers of very famous people, and it's always a blast to do this sort of thing. Mark, I really appreciate you spending time with us this morning, and I wish you a great coming year 2023. Even though we might be hunkering down, I wish you all the happiness in the world.
All right. Well, happy holidays to you as well, my brother. Love you.
Love you too. Ryan, back to you.
Alrighty, thank you, gentlemen. Fantastic conversation today. Mark, of course, we appreciate you and your time for jumping aboard and being with us and kind of sharing that slice into your world of executive recruiting, and especially in the high rolling area that is Las Vegas. Always interesting. And of course, Tony, great work today. Hey, for our audience out there, we want to say a quick thank you for stopping by and being with us here on the show today. If you took anything away from today's conversation, you enjoyed it in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and like the show on whichever platform you checked us out on. And of course, subscribe to it. That way you never miss out on a future episode. I mentioned at the top of the show, this is the season premiere of season 2 here on Go Beyond Numbers. That means we've got a lot of great conversations ahead with some really special guests that we're excited to be bringing to you here in episodes to come. So by subscribing to the show, you'll never miss out on one of those great episodes. So for Tony, for Mark, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate you stopping by and being with us here on Go Beyond Numbers.